All right, hey everyone, it's that time again where we sit down to check out some of the best looking new upcoming games. I gotta say, May is looking like no slouch. There are only a handful of AAA releases that seem worth paying attention to, but we've also got like a metric ton of smaller games that I definitely think you should keep an eye on. So let's just jump in and give them a look. As always, we go in order of release date, and I'm gonna start with some of the bigger games that I think have the best chance of being good. Of course, as always, we will see how it pans out. It's always great looking back on these videos and see if it ages like a fine wine or if it ages like milk. The first game is Redfall. This is an open world vampire hunting FPS from Arcane Studios, the same studio that brought us Prey and Dishonored. They've got quite a pedigree, and are they going to keep it up? Well, we will see. This game takes place in the fictional town of Redfall, Massachusetts, that's under siege by a legion of vampires. We play as hunters who go in, exploring these open world areas, fighting the vampires back, searching for loot, playing through a story campaign, and then engaging with plenty of side objectives, events, and activities, a lot of which you might expect from open world styled games. So there are 4 playable characters. They fill distinct roles. These act as classes, basically. There's Devinder, who's a cryptozoologist armed with these self-created inventions. Layla is kind of the caster class with these telekinetic abilities. Remy is a frontline combat engineer who is great for team support. And then there's Jacob, who is a ranged sharpshooter with this spectral raven sidekick. So we're gonna face off against a big variety of types of vampires beyond the typical like melee swarmers and the ranged casters. There's things like the Shrouds, who will summon up a dark bubble around players that limit their field of view, making them really susceptible to ranged attacks, as you can't see them until they're just about to hit you. Or there's the Blood Bags, who will relentlessly chase players down and detonate when they get near. The Anglers, who try to lure players in. They're one of the few flying vampire types. They're able to pull players towards them and deal a ton of damage if they land their hooks. And then there are the Rooks, which are like really tanky and aggressive. They charge the player, teleporting around, summoning in thunderstorms, which deal a lot of damage if you stay outside. But then if you go inside, well, you got to deal with them in close quarters, which is tough. So you go around, you fight back vampires, you do story-based stuff. You're also going to collect loot. You'll gather items that are worth currency that you can exchange with NPCs and vendors. There's gear in the game. You're going to collect all sorts of stuff, different weapons, shotguns, SMG, snipers, all the usual fare. A variety of different loadouts for each hero with some customization, letting you play around with different builds, trying to synergize with your teammates. And then they've got the upgrade and the ability to change skills and fit various playstyles, like if you want to go guns blazing or stealth combat, melee or ranged, on a whole assortment of potential combinations. So on its face, I really liked the concept of this game. I thought since it was first revealed that it sounded interesting, especially with the pedigree that Arcane Austin has. However, there has been quite a lot of controversy around the game. It does appear like general reception from the audience, at least from how it seems online, is pretty mixed. It doesn't help when you get recent reports of things like the game being locked at 30 frames per second on console. The fact that the campaign progression only applies to the host, so if you do play co-op, which this game does feature up to 4-player co-op, only the host is going to be progressing. Everyone else has to progress on their own accord. And then just in general, people seem to think that this game is coming in a bit too hot and might not quite be ready. It's already seen delays. It's clearly not going to get another one. In fact, by the time this video is up, the reviews may very well be in. And I have to say, from some early hands-on impressions, from what I've been hearing, things aren't looking too good. I am still keeping my fingers crossed. As always with these lists, we're just hoping for the best and talking about the games we think have a decent chance, or at least we hope they do. Redfall will be launching on May the 2nd, coming to PC and Xbox. Before we move on to the next game, we got a word from today's sponsor. This month's episode of the show is sponsored by Warframe, the free-to-play online action game with more than 70 million players. Whom I count myself among them. I've played this on and off over the years, all the way since it was in beta back in 2013, and I find myself enjoying coming back from time to time to check out what's new, and they've got something new right now. The latest big update, the Deviri Paradox, adds a brand new roguelite time-looping massive open-world adventure to the game. With this, they aim to make Warframe more accessible for everyone. Even if it's your first time playing, you can jump straight into all of the brand new content with the Deviri Paradox. It'll be coming to all platforms, and it is a free update as usual. You can sign up and download Warframe using my link below, and if you use my promo code for a limited time, you can claim a free bundle of items perfect for new players to get started with the game, including the Bratton Assault Rifle, along with a 3-day affinity and a 3-day credit credit booster. Okay, the next game on this month's list is Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, the highly anticipated follow-up to Breath of the Wild. This continues the adventures of Link, introducing a transformed and expanded Hyrule with new ways to explore, new puzzles and mysteries to solve, and tons of new abilities for our toolbox. One of the new areas that we'll get to explore is up in the clouds, these mysterious islands that now float above in the sky of Hyrule. This is where we begin our adventure. We'll learn some new abilities here and then take those with us back to the surface. Although there is a lot that's the same, much of the landscape has also changed, the terrain altered in various ways, familiar locations transformed, there'll be new towns, new caves and forest, all tons of new points of interest. Brand new abilities, as we mentioned, like the Ultra Hand, letting us pick up, move, and rotate objects, attaching things together to create bridges or even vehicles. There's Fuse, which lets us attach objects to our weapons, shields, and arrow to increase their durability, their damage, or even add brand new effects. The Ascend ability, letting us pass through solid objects as we move up into the sky. And then the Recall ability, where we can reverse an object's movement, letting us ride fallen boulders back up or recover thrown objects or send projectiles back towards enemies. A lot of people are really excited for this game. If I had a Nintendo Switch, I would almost certainly be playing it. Tears of the Kingdom is coming to the Switch on May 12th, and it's coming to PC in my dreams. Next up, we have got V Rising Gloomrot. This brand new massive update for V Rising adds an entirely new zone with two unique areas, the Polluted Valleys and the Scorched Highlands. These areas include a slew of new enemies, bosses, and environmental features. With this update, they've also revamped the world, expanding and improving upon biomes that already exist with things like a new vineyard, a reimagined cursed forest, and a bunch of new points of interest. There are now weather hazards like the choking mist, deadly lightning storms, and gale force winds. Trading hubs have been overhauled. There's tons of new customization like multi-level castles. We can build all new stairways and expansive gardens. There's more color variations and decorations. New crafting stations like the Jewel Crafter, the Legendary Forge, the Fabricator, and the Leatherworking. 13 new bosses are in the game. 30 new enemy types are in the game. A magic system has been reimagined and more specialized. We can become like a necromancer or an illusionist. There's also a new spell school with storm spells added to the game, new legendary items to improve our abilities and add special effects, a whole new blood system, improvements to movement with updates to shape-shifting forms, mounts, and teleporters. Lots of new stuff. I really liked the base core of V Rising. Me and my friends had a ton of fun with that game, and it's cool that they're getting such a huge new completely free update. V Rising Gloomrot will be launching on May 17th, and again, that is completely free of charge. Next up is Amnesia The Bunker, the latest first-person horror title from Frictional Games, the creators of Soma, and of course, the Amnesia series. So this time we are left alone in a desolate World War I bunker with only one single bullet to our name and a whole lot of oppressing terrors surrounding us in the dark. Besides our revolver gun with its one bullet, we've got a noisy dynamo flashlight and other supplies that we can scavenge for, using these to craft various consumables as we try to survive, all the while being hunted by an ever-present dynamic threat that reacts to our every move and sound. This game features randomization and unpredictable enemy behavior in a semi-open world that we'll explore and experiment, finding different potential ways to escape. There are multiple solutions to the various problems that we are presented with, and they've also got what they call tactical and physics-based interactions with the world, making everything feel more realistic, basically. Amnesia The Bunker will be launching on May 23rd, coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Warhammer 40k Boltgun is a retro-inspired boomer shooter featuring frenetic gameplay and pixelated 90s stylized visuals. This looks surprisingly good, actually, in my opinion, as a 40k take on the Doom formula, which Doom itself was clearly taking inspiration from 40k, so it looks like we've come full circle here. In Boltgun, we play as a battle-hardened space marine tearing our way through the legions of chaos. It is a linear adventure, so we'll start off with just the chainsword, and then as we progress, we discover more of the classic space marine arsenal, including things like the bolt gun, a shotgun, and plasma gun. The structure does appear to be somewhat linear as well, as we move through these interconnected hallways and combat arenas, just blowing up anything in our path, quickly swapping weapons as you do in boomer shooters to counter whatever's in front of us, and then getting the occasional bombastic 40k set piece piece moments, some sort of theatrical pieces here and there. As you progress through, things get harder, and then eventually when you reach the end of the level, you're asked to fight back waves of increasingly difficult enemies in what is called the Purge. If you survive that, you will then move on to the next stage. It's got a lot of the retro FPS features, such as shield, health, ammo, and power-up pickups all over the levels. I'm really not sure if we can expect a ton of depth out of this game, as it does appear to mostly just be paying tribute to a bygone era, but with some modern-day improvements and tech behind it. If nothing else, though, it seems like Boltgun could just be a good old plain fun time. Warhammer 40k Boltgun will be launching on May 23rd for PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. The Lord of the Rings Gollum. This is a story-driven action-adventure game that delves into and lets us experience the untold tales of Gollum's quest. It is a linear action-adventure game with a big focus on stealth, basically, because Gollum isn't much of a fighter. We'll be sneaking around, hiding in bushes, in the shadows, just trying to avoid conflict a lot of the time, climbing, jumping gaps, grappling around things, tossing objects to distract enemies. There will be some occasional direct interactions with enemies, but for the most part, we're hiding or trying to take them by surprise, like setting up a trap or pushing someone over a ledge when they're not suspecting it. Don't expect a ton of hand-to-hand combat game. This is mostly a stealth adventure game. One big feature as well in this game is a Paragon-like system where the decisions we make will affect Gollum's personality, with both the light and the dark sides represented here, which does seem interesting. Haven't gotten a lot of details as to exactly if this will affect gameplay or not, or if it'll just be the narrative and the dialogue and cutscenes. The initial gameplay reveal trailer looked really rough. This game had a very poor reception. They ended up delaying it as a result, but it is now finally coming out and will be launching on May 25th for PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. Okay, so those are the heavy hitters for this month, and now I'm going to dive into a few of the honorable mentions that you might find interesting. First up is Ethereal Echoes of Yore, an old school inspired MMO with a living world created by players. This game features a robust character and class system, instance dungeons, challenging endgame content, with what they say is high-risk gameplay and a one-of-a-kind looting system. Players will explore through a world full of secrets, crafting gear and consumables, staking claim to property, and joining guilds to take on all of the game's challenges. Now, by the time this video is up, the game should already be out as it launches on May the 1st, so we should know pretty soon if this will be one worth giving a look. Coming out on May 2nd is Age of Wonders 4, a fantasy strategy game that combines empire building, role-playing, and tactical combat. The game features a new storytelling event system and customizable empires, allowing for what they call endless replayability. You can create unique followers as you combine bodily forms, societal traits, and arcane powers. It features tactical turn-based battles, a morale system, and again, what they say is endless replayability. It's just a 4X strategy game if you're into that sort of thing. Darkest Dungeon 2, coming out on May the 8th, is a roguelike where you form a party of adventurers and set out on a quest to avert the apocalypse. The game features the tried and true turn-based combat of the original Darkest Dungeon while introducing a ton of new elements. The structure and presentation have been overhauled. The game seems pretty cool. I really liked the first Darkest Dungeon. If you have any appetite for turn-based combat, the setting, the world that they build in here, really cool, really immersive. The first one was quite enjoyable, so I got pretty high anticipations for the sequel. Coming out on May 18th is Firmament. This is a new puzzle adventure game from the studio behind the classics Myst and Riven. Those are just like gold standard point and click adventure games, and they're coming out with a new one set in a steampunk world. Seems interesting for any old fellas like me. Me and older are probably the only people who are going to play this game. But on May 23rd, we have Miasma Chronicles, a post-apocalyptic tactics RPG set in this wasteland world. It features real-time exploration gameplay with turn-based combat and RPG elements. There's upgradable weapons and abilities, and this really interesting looking fantasy story. This is created by the developers of Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden. And then finally on this month's list, we have got System Shock, a remake launching on May 30th. Full-fledged remake of the original game from 1994, combining the classic gameplay and world with all new HD visuals, updated controls, and overhauled interface with new sound, music, and more. And then I also want to let you know about some other noteworthy things, including on May 12th, we've got Diablo 4's Server Slam event. I'm excited for this. Running from the 12th to the 14th, this is the final open beta test for D4 prior to its release. And it's called Server Slam, so expect things to not function really well. They're going to try to push the servers here, and and yeah, disconnects and latency and all sorts of issues is what we should expect. It's gonna have everything from the last beta. So we got Fractured Peaks Act 1, although they are restricting us to only level 20 instead of 25. So your builds aren't gonna be quite as progressed this time around, but all the same other content. We got the Ashava world boss and brand new cosmetic rewards for defeating him as well. So if you're interested in that, be sure to jump in and check it out. And then also I should note, we are expecting more beta test for Counter-Strike 2 this month as we lead up to August. So yeah, that'll be happening if you're into some CS2. And with that, we will wrap up this month's list. As always, thank you for watching. Hope that this video does age like fine wine and not like soured milk. It's so funny because yeah, every month, you know, I do these lists and I'm like, here's some stuff that's coming out. Looks pretty cool. And then, you know, how it all turns out. Sometimes these games do turn out to be really awesome, and sometimes they turn out to be a total flop. And I'm hoping we have more awesome than flop in the month of May. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.